Hey there everybody, my name is Kate. Welcome to my channel, Trenergy Awakens Naturally. Let's talk about a few things. We got a lot of weird stuff going on and I felt inspired to start this video. My guides kind of prompted me here and said, yeah, let's go talk about what's going on. So what's going on? What's going on is there's a great deal of unrest in society globally at the moment, and much of it has to do, believe it or not, for all my friends that don't believe in anything except what they see here in the 3D, it has a lot to do with quantum world and spiritual world and 5D ascension-y spirituality kind of stuff, spooky action at a distance. There's a lot of it. And when I start to really see things from a more factual position and line it up and see where I can make some ties between what's happening in the cosmos with planets, Mercury retrograde, etc., sun burps and other cosmic blasts of different frequencies from outer space, and I see what's happening on Earth, it really does cement for me that this is more than just 3D, and it doesn't matter how weird it sounds. Most people that were pioneers in new information sounded like weirdos, and they were torched probably. Many people were. And still are. However, the truth is that we've got Mercury retrograde right now, which is a perfect time when karma comes back to say, hey, let's talk about this, let's review this. And this is, do you see the destruction that's happening? Do you see that the matrix, all of the paradigms, the horrible paradigms are being dismantled one by one by one by one? And it really all boils into one main paradigm of ego-driven. We're not doing this society anymore. The people that are woke, not woke culture in the sense of what mainstream media would call it. Many people in mainstream wokeness are definitely spiritually awakened. However, that's really what I'm referring to as being spiritually awakened, and understanding that my spiritual journey, my me-ness that has no label on it, if I want to go to church after I know who I am, if I want to go to a church, a synagogue, a mosque, or the hills, whatever I want to do to reach my place of zenness and sacredness, that's what I do. And all of those paradigms that tell us we have to do our identity in some particular label, in some particular way, you see it everywhere with the multiple ways that we have chosen to identify ourselves by gender, by race, by job. I mean, we're trying, the human being soul is just driven and trying to define itself out here in the external. I'm not shaming or putting any stank on any label that's out there. It's just that when we identify with things that we can taste, touch, feel, etc., you're putting your identity and your faith in something that's driven in 3D. And I really I'm certain that what Jesus, Buddha, Lao Tzu, a lot of ascended masters were talking about is, if you're going to have an identity, maybe you want to check the identity that's the higher consciousness of you, and then whatever is running you. Because I don't run me. Not really. I run my mind. I run my avatar. However, I am acutely aware that I don't run the weather. I don't run occurrences that could take me out at any moment. So whatever that is, that's what I yield to, and what I understand the cosmos to be about, and that it's loving. It's a very loving frequency. It's very kind, and that's why all the different sacred texts you see, they talk about loving frequency and all the different ways that they've assimilated that information wherever it originated. And if we take, one of the more popular, Jesus talked about loving and being forgiving. If we're purely loving, then we are also able to forgive as human beings. That's not really realistic, because purely loving really wouldn't have a need to forgive. There wouldn't have been a transgression noticed. It would have just been purely loving. Now, as parents, we can be purely loving, we think, and we're going to need to step in and say, yeah, no, that's not okay. We're going to need to have some discussion, because we're here in 3D. Purely loving frequency is not the basis of what we're operating on as our base frequency here. It's Mother Earth. Yes, she has her beautiful own resonance. And human beings, we're not just there in that purely loving frequency. We have that ability to be understanding ourselves in God's seed, so that we can grow and develop our own personality into that loving frequency. However, with free will, we're always going to have the ability to choose differently and be quite conditional, because sometimes we have to be. Sometimes we have to be. That the condition of me being in a relationship with you dictates that, I'm going to love you enough as unconditionally as I possibly could to say goodbye, because that's some hood. I don't do that. And that's not to be unkind. It's to say that sometimes slap a hand before you hold it. And right now, there's a lot of people that are going through their karmic return and their karmic justice that has nothing to do, really cannot have anything to do when humans get involved in, karma and trying to exact justice and go all avenger and stuff. You got to stop, because we don't have that latitude. We don't have that power. And we have not been given that kind of a scepter to, decide what the fate of another person is. For realsy, we've been in this really mind-boggling illusion for the whole time that I've been alive, and, thousands of years prior, that we could somehow be in charge of someone else. I'm the king of you at whatever level it happens. And as long as we can get whomever to believe our story, then we'll have a whole crowd of supporters. Whether they're there by choice or not, doesn't matter. As long as I have a crowd of supporters, and we built up this whole paradigm in the Age of Pisces, that made sense. Kinda. Doesn't make any sense to me, but okay, I didn't design it. However, the Age of Pisces is gone. We're out of that whole cycle. We're into the cosmic alignment where we are here, which is the Age of Pisces, that this is collaborative. It's understanding that freedom and unconditionally loving as much as human beings possibly can. It is not even remotely loving to be judging other people and then exacting some sort of revenge on them if they don't do things the way that we want them to. And I'm not talking about, people trying to get over and forgive the most heinous crimes ever. That would be a lot to expect of the average person that could just say, well, this tragic, huge, horrible event happened, and I'm going to just be, loving of the person that perpetrated that. We can't start there. Jesus could do that more than likely. He obviously did, because he could have escaped his whole death. He could have, his execution, he could have stopped that if he had wanted to. He had that kind of power. And so instead, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Basically, these boneheads have no idea what they're doing, and they will still get their karma and their karmic justice and their karmic return once I'm gone. However, I'm just here in a body, and when I leave, I'm no longer here in a body. I'm elsewhere doing my work. So thank you, Father. Let's let that go. Well, that's a pretty high level of forgiveness and compassion, etc., that most people don't even remotely have. And that's fine. We can't be expected to necessarily come out of the hatch looking like that, breathing like that, tasting, touching, smelling, and having that ethic, especially when we've been raised in situations that keep us locked in 3D misunderstanding. Hey, Jesus was talking about understanding ourselves through a new paradigm and a new understanding, that you really have got to see yourself as Christ seed or God seed, or as a child of the universe, however it is that we identify, whether it's through Christ or not, that we are cosmic dust. We all come from something other than just the earth. If we're limited to believing that, well, I come from that family. Okay, your body does. Where does your energy come from? Where did that just come up out of? Because energy is neither created nor destroyed. Then where did that suddenly come up out of to make you? When the sperm and the egg came together and decided, baby, where did that energy source come to form that live creature that would grow into being you, me, whomever, whatever? Where did that energy come from? Well, we can prove based on the materials in our body that we've all got pieces and parts of space in us. So if we only believe that we're from the family, then we're not really going to believe that perhaps as in depth as we could, just how cosmically aligned we really are. And that force, whatever it is very loving, it's kind, it's beautiful. It gives us all of that all day long. We also have evidence that there's the opposite of that, because we live in a very polarized world. We live with north, south, east, west, up, down. We have the comparison, and we have to understand that, yes, there's loving frequency, there's kind, there's gorgeous, there's beautiful, there's all of that. That's just no shame, no blame, no game, none of that. And yet we're here in this very polarized experience where there is good and bad. And so we can experience, when we're not connected to that very well, we can experience bad all the time. I mean, all the time. And now it's just moved into, people that weren't terribly connected to themselves and weren't very spiritually awakened, or not at all. They could kind of get away with being surface level, and just go to church on Sundays, throw in the $20 and move it on. And it's not there anymore. We're being called and pressed and pushed, whether we like it or not is irrelevant. We're being pushed into, are you going to find something more about yourself than shallow thinking and being dedicated to some stuff that's 3D? If you can take it with you when you go, then that's what maybe would be good to look into and get very dedicated to that. Not that we can't have favorite sports teams or things like that. It's just that if that's all that we do, if it's the only thing we do, we're probably not digging into the us of us, the me of me, that makes me different from the you of you. My energetic fingerprint, my energetic stamp is going to be different than yours. And how I reach that, really understand that, and grow that understanding to be more than just my fingerprint out here. My fingerprint out here will dissolve into the fire, the dirt, the water, whatever it is when I go. However, my energetic stamp will still live on somewhere in some way as it's absorbed back into the cosmic juices that we all came up out of. And so if we don't really think of it in more cosmic scales, we can get very limited to 3D and believing that this is it. And when we're seeing the destruction of all of these major paradigms, and terrible ones too, I'm happy to see it. It brings a lot of pain, and it brings a lot of suffering, and it brings a lot of people with questions all day about what's happening to me, and a lot of fear. And so if we think that we're really connected to spirit, to God, to Jesus, to Buddha, to Brahma, to whomever, whatever deity we may honor, if we're thinking we're really connected to that, and we're still very rooted in some very discriminatory ideas, and I don't mean just prejudice to one particular color, gender, etc. I mean across the board, if we've got discriminatory or prejudiced ideas about anything, we're really probably not digging into what the ethic of Jesus and Lao Tzu, all of these ascended masters really were saying, is that love is really where this is. And it sounds foo-foo and all that. However, remember, love is also slap a hand before you hold it. It's much more loving for me to tell you you're full of shit, back up, than for me to coach you and say, well, you're allowed to have your opinion. You are allowed to have your opinion. However, you may not have your opinion on me that it kills me in some way, or that you can thieve from me, or whatever. Going with the flow doesn't mean that we just let people harm us. However, when people are willing to hear, back up, sit down, have a seat, and let's chat about what's lacking in your own identification with spirit, with your own identification of your own soul, that you're out here tooling like this was a puppet show, or Mickey's experience as the wizard, or whatever he was in Fantasia. If you remember correctly, Mickey was unqualified. He was the apprentice, not the main dude, and he tore up the whole shop. So that's what you have here, is that people that think they're wizards, they think they're, quite ready to run all of Fantasia, and they're not. They're not qualified. They're tearing up the whole place. And whoever governs that, whatever the ultimate wizard is in your mind, I don't remember from the movie if he was nice to Mickey when he came in and said, yeah, stop that shit. I don't remember if he was nice about it or not. But that wizard, when he comes back and says, yeah, this really, no, you really can't do this. I would hope that if we were illustrating kind frequency, that it would be kind enough to say, no, stop. You've done enough. You've damaged enough, and absolutely not. Get this cleaned up. Let's see what I can do to show you how you're going to start. If you have trouble understanding where you're going to start or why you got to start, all of that. And that's stuff that comes from the ethers. It doesn't come from my mouth to somebody to tell them what they should be doing, unless I'm backing them up off of me or defending myself in some way, and a very God-directed experience. If they're not coming at me physically, that's the only one where I might make a snap decision to, push somebody or whatever. But if they're not coming at me physically, some other interaction, those are very God-directed, and very much spirit with me asking routinely. I went through a very long period a few years ago where there was routine hacking into my accounts, and security issues were all over the place with, mail theft and money theft from my bank account. Thousands of dollars, and being left penniless at the hands of someone else who had control of the home. home I was in. Excuse me. And it left me in a lot of places of vulnerability. And I wanted to lash out, scream, and just, get into all kinds of arguments about stuff. And I was told very clearly, keep your mouth shut. This isn't about you. This is about an internal war at other people's houses that are having way more problems with their ego identification than you are at the moment. Your ego identification is, I'm hurt, and what the hell? When do I get justice? Well, it's not about justice, Kate. It's about sit down and wait. And that was really hard because my feelings were hurt, and I was angry, and how dare you? All kinds of stuff was coming up. But I learned very carefully, if that's not a physical engagement, then don't make it one. Don't make it a verbal one. Don't make it an anything. Put the on that. And there were a few times that I needed to make some very strategic steps. I don't just sit back and let somebody run over me exactly. No, it's just that when I'm told, let that go, just let them have that little victory over there, let them have it. You got other stuff over here that's more important. There were some things that I had to do to be in contact with a lawyer and authorities and what have you. However, it was never with the idea of revenge or vengeance. Vengeance, saith the Lord, is mine or something. No, it's if whoever was quoted as saying that in the Bible, it wasn't me. And that's what I'm clear on, is that vengeance is not mine, because it keeps me in a very ego-identified place, that my position on earth is here, and it matters, and this is how I'm going to show you what I think of what you did. And believe me, a lot of that stuff, it hurt my feelings and, made me very sad for a long time. And the truth is that get through all of that, the disappointment, the shock, and the, what? I couldn't believe that person did that. I trusted that, all of that. That's all the emotion of it. And then get to the higher understanding is that you're not Jesus. You're not going to, say exactly those same words as he was hanging from the cross, however, get as close as you can. That they obviously, whomever it is that goes at another person and gets at their neck for whatever reason it is, they obviously have major issues going on in their minds. That now we're fast forward as many years as it is that we're here to 2023, and we can really see it, that what's happening in mainstream media, that's just the figurehead for what's happening all over the world in houses everywhere right next to you and me. It's a matter of what's going on in my house, what's going on in my head. Am I feeling the shutdown, the breakdown, the absolute collapse of all of this? Am I terrified? Am I feeling, all of this jumbled up mess in my head? Am I feeling more hostile? Am I even aware of what I'm feeling? And the truth is that I'm aware that there's a lot of that going on. However, at my house, I haven't missed a beat other than, some pain from dental work the other day. And here I am, and it's basically because when we keep that even keel and we understand our place. I'm not an avenger, I'm not the Justice League, and I'm not here to mete out anyone's karma for them. That's some no-no, that's some cosmic, you don't have that kind of power, then don't take that. And those that already have, it's not that people haven't done it, it's that I know better, that don't do that, because it nets you some very horrible results, that as that's playing itself out, it's not going to look pretty. And it's not going to, be an okay thing for that to just go long term. And that's what I was told. And I had no idea what was going to happen several years later. I had no idea how this was going to look any more than anybody else did. But, 4 or 5 years ago, all I could think was, this isn't fair. This isn't fair. This isn't fair. And this isn't about fair at this moment in front of your human eyeballs. You don't have the hawk's eye view. The hawk's eye view that God has is over the entire globe, as well as the universe or whatever, and whatever understanding of God you understand. It's not about you and your one-dimensional understanding of you and your experience. This is about a whole integrative process where an entire system is going down. All kinds of systems that feed into that basic matrix machine that I'm in charge. It's my game to do whatever I want to. And no, I don't subscribe to this, just that we're all, just Agent Smiths, except for a few of us. I do believe that we are all in a very zombie-like Agent Smith state of being if we're willing to not really look at everything that makes us not that. And when we have been traumatized, we've been beat up, and we've been abandoned, hurt, and betrayed, and treated terribly, when we've had all of these experiences, it can turn us into Agent Smith in a second. However, it does not mean that we can't be something else. We might not ever want to be Neo or Trinity. However, we might want to not be Agent Smith. Agent Smith didn't have any feelings, so why would he want to have superiority? He must have feelings, huh? I mean, he was a machine, but if you look at it in terms of human beings, if you want to have power and superiority over someone, you must have feelings. If you didn't have feelings at all, you'd just be dispassionate and a zombie. So we have feelings. So I can't go far into, people that are just soulless. They're not soulless. They're just turned off from God's source so far that they have zero connection with it, or very limited. And I don't personally understand that, to have zero connection with anything that hooks us in with feelings. I've been, sensate my whole life and prone to, cry and scream and all that. It's just, I know that there's more than just this. And people that don't know that, now would be a perfect time that, they would hop inside and take a look at what's going on in here and, what am I really about? And there are many, many that won't. They won't take that journey. They won't even think that it's worthwhile to do because they're so distracted with the destruction. And I talk about it a lot, but it's valid that if you're in an emergency situation, deal with the emergency. And we'll talk about, who the perp is later. Right now we have an emergency. As a paramedic, when I was on the scene with someone that was getting in the way of me actually doing my job, it got nasty a few times of, please move, get out of here, and have this person removed now because you're impeding me doing my job. And right now, if we aren't able to really triage well and also manage an emergency scene very well, we might be struggling, we might be having a hard time, and we might really be hating our lives, especially if we've been the ones that caused a lot of the damage, It got janky on scene sometimes where there were people who perpetrated a crime, that was still there, that person was injured, and there were other people there that were injured by that person. It could get a little janky. And so I understand the human dynamic of it. However, we're moving out of human dumb dynamic, what I call human dumb dynamic of no emotion except rage. That's not an emotion in and of itself. That's got something deeper. And when we're not willing to really go in there and look at what that is, if we have a major hostile reaction that involves engaging someone physically, whether we know them or not, that's somebody that's right there on that trigger point of, oh, please have a seat, rub your mad spot, and see if you can figure out what drives you to do that, what makes you want to do that. And introspection is not something that we really teach one another, that we tolerate very well. When we see people who are peaceful or seem like they're, the Zen and, know about that third eye thing, we call them hippie, stupid, creepy, whatever, and crazy and all kinds of things, and just dismiss them, much like Jesus. And anybody that's teaching a Jesus ethic of peace, Martin Luther King, that works for me. He wasn't Jesus. I'm not making that alignment. I'm just saying that teaching peace at whatever level it takes. Okay. I'm not saying that I think it's okay to go to war with people. It's just, if I have to do battle with someone, I'm going to do it long enough to establish my boundary of, no, I'm not dying for your cause. Unless I'm told by spirit that your cause is who I'm joining and we're dying together or something like that. But just to take someone's pro bono violence, no. NFW, moving on. But I don't want to die, so I can push off that and defend myself and minimize any experience where I'm hanging out with people who have that kind of quick reflex to go there. And that can be a little shocking and a little bit like, oh my, I wasn't expecting that, when we see that people are unveiling themselves everywhere right now. And if that's not a red flag, that's an immediate, danger, evacuate, get the hell out of here. And when we see people trip and trigger in that direction, believe them. They just introduced what they've been the whole time, which is a little bit shocking. It can be a little bit shocking that I never knew. And yet, for the few people that I've seen that, the last few years were rough, were up until a year ago, thank you, that when I looked into those eyes and went, oh, okay, I kind of always knew that was there, that didn't surprise me, it just shocked me that you finally couldn't control it anymore, is probably what's really true. And it went from through all different degrees of just, how aggressive physically it was, financially, emotionally, you name it, of I'm not happy with what you're saying and I'm not happy that you're not doing it my way. And that's some real toxic stuff. And it's very dysfunctional, very codependent. It's very, evil in my opinion. Evil as in is some of the lowest vibing stuff out there, that you want to get physical with someone or punish them in some way. financially, or through whatever means of magic, identity theft, and all that crap. I mean, just things that I can't even remember. So many stupid instances of, what are you doing now? Okay, that I was told, just release it and let it go and let us work this out at some point. And it was really, used to chat me a lot, like, this isn't fair. Yeah, that comes up a lot. And I'm reminded a lot of, I start to say that this isn't fair. Is that what you're going to say, Kate? Is that what you're going to say? This isn't fair. Do we talk about this a lot? Yeah, well, how come? Because fair is what we justify up there. That's where karma comes in, and you don't have anything to do with it, because fair by human standards is never fair, okay? Not as fair as it's going to be with the cosmos. That's why, Kate, sometimes you got to sit your own ass right down and talk to yourself and, rub your own mad spot and say, it's okay. Because as long as I know that I'm living righteously, justly, that I'm living as the best human being that I possibly can, and not putting anything out there to collect some, nasty debt on my side, for the karmic wheel to have some trouble making it around. As long as I'm keeping my nose clean, then it really is best to stay out of the business of wondering how somebody else is going to get what they get because they didn't. That's not my job. And boy, that's a real tough one sometimes, because humans are super nosy about stuff that's really none ya. It's absolutely none your business. Keep on out of that. We're not taught that, because we expose people's foibles and their, downfalls. Every level of exposure that we can bring, we do, because we've turned it into some sadistic game where, this is okay. And yet when it comes time for us, and we get our moment of, the shame tour or the blame tour or whatever it is, our fragile egos, when we're only driven by that, we turn into just epic monsters. And especially now, because we're just energized to that level that you're going to freak or fly, one or the other, and freak or die if you don't fly, because that's where we are. The energy has pushed us here. The darkest forces on the planet, wherever they originate, however they got here, whatever their agenda is, I don't care, because it's all just a frequency of, nope, that's going extinct. And if you want to try to, Tyrannosaurus Rex your way, and screech and carry on, you're still going to go. If we don't evolve, we go. And for whatever reason that something goes extinct, it's because it did not have whatever survival it needed to go to the next level. Dark, evil, nasty stuff will not make it into the next level. That's going to be the mass extinction of that ideology, that way of life, that Age of Pisces bullshit, that we're not taking that up into every new frequency. And as you see us ascending, as we go, you see huge paradigms just sliding away. If you see them, if you don't look at them, notice them, or think it's really anything too noticeable, then maybe you don't. However, I do. I've seen the downfall of a lot of stuff in the last 4 or 5 years just from my own personal life. And then I look around and see, oh, it's not just in my town or just in my state, just in my country. It's all over the freaking place. And outer space is talking to us even more. We're finding things through quantum physics that, wow, we've got all kinds of bursts and things happening there in black holes and out in outer space, that we're finding more and more and more and more of the unexplainable. That's that fifth element stuff. We've already got the 4 elements here on Earth that we don't know much about, and that fifth one, oh, I mean, we think we know a lot about those 4 elements, but they surprise us every once in a while, don't they? And the fifth element is everything else that we don't know about. And so I bow to that, which I call that a very sacred thing. That's God. That's the whole everything. If God was something, God would also include all of quantum understanding as well, not just Earth. God, if God is everywhere, if that's the preface that most people take, is that God's supreme, then God would cover quantum science as well. And that's what we're learning and seeing and coming to understand, the interconnectedness of our environment and ourselves as we're going forward with brand new. This earth is changing, and people that believe that new earth is somewhere else, it's right here as we change our consciousness and change what we're doing, change our ethics, change our beliefs, change our faith in having faith in something that's really something to have faith in. If it's a person on earth, you might not want to do it. They might surprise you, and they'll definitely break your heart when they die if you're relying on them to be your source. If they are a source of joy and whatever, that's fantastic. However, being able to generate it from here, that's the faith that I want to keep building for me, that I never lose faith in not just me, my ability to connect with my spirituality and keep me connected to what is the ultimate source of authority. And love. Love is the authority. Authority doesn't have to be a bad thing. In our understanding, in our paradigm, it's bad as hell. It's mean, it's nasty, and it's ugly. However, the ultimate command on this is not that. It's very loving and pure. And it's a beautiful experience, and we're not going to experience it down here if we're busy getting karmic return for a lot of unbeautiful, nasty stuff that we've done. We have to pay our bills, whether we want to or not, whether we think it's fair or not, and for all I know, I don't personally believe in, the Akashic Records quite the same way as some, but for all I know, the fact that there hasn't been justice for 3 or 4 years, like, that's not fair. I could be paying out karmic debt as long as I know that I'm serving what I serve. It's just a human face or a human understanding. Sorry, I'm not going to do it. None of them will work. That's why I know is my life changed when I started serving my understanding of spirit and ascended mastery, not through anybody else's understanding, what they think of it, what they agree with, what they tell me, unless it's the absolute truth for me and I feel that deep in my soul of, yep, that's where I'm going. And most of that stuff comes directly to me because I ask. A lot of us ask. I had to learn how to ask differently. Ask without any prejudice, Kate. A lot of us ask with, well, it has to be called God. It has to be called Jesus. It has to be called, I don't know. Oh my goodness. Allah. Has to be called whomever. And I mean no disrespect. It does not. For me, I've learned that it does not honor what is honorable. And honor that, then it doesn't matter which understanding is being brought to me. And it's taken me to understand a whole bunch of different spiritual practices and religions, and take away what is the truth of those, which is love is love is love and nothing else. And there isn't any divinity separation or discrimination that happens. There isn't any. There's nowhere in divinity, in a pure frequency of love, which we all want to believe that God's loving. Well, then let's go on ahead and believe that God's loving and stop teaching that God's vengeful, because that's already a disparity. Then let's get into, God's loving, then, and believe that, and have demonstrations in our life everywhere that we can, and be that. I don't want to be Jesus Christ. I want to walk as if I were Jesus Christ. I want to walk as if I were thinking, acting, and being and doing my life as God. Wayne Dyer said at one time, I want to think like God. And I want to take that one step further, Dr. Dyer, and say, I want to act like God, not a God. Act like God, as in I want to act like the loving frequency to the highest capability that I can as a human being, knowing I always have free will. That empowers me more, that when I can choose well, instead of choosing badly or mean or nasty or vengeful, or, when I can choose to be more in alignment with that God frequency, it actually empowers me even more and gives me even more X-Men super strength right there. It's not easy to get there. However, we won't get there at all if we're still stuck worrying about, getting our own personal vengeance on other people and stuff. There's a higher cause. And though I don't understand people that, are deeply rooted into their other stuff, it's not mine to judge. It's just a very different way of looking at life that, I have my own feelings, of course. However, it doesn't make me feel any better. It makes me feel worse if I even go in the direction of thinking how I would punish someone else for what they did to me. And I do understand there are very huge, egregious crimes, murders and what have you. And I'm not saying that we're all going to get there. And I'm not saying that I've never suffered a murder. So there is no comparison necessary. I just know that ultimately, for me, no matter what I experience, it's not going to help me, and it never went in any direction I wanted it to go. If I even thought about doing something hateful to someone else, I never actually did. In the last 3 or 4 years, I just let people kind of walk themselves wherever they walk themselves and do what they had to do, and know that it was happening, and listen very carefully and guide myself and coach myself with my team of saying, here's the comfort of knowing you're free of the paradigm, you're free of that whole toxic cycle, and that is justice in and of itself. For now. And as that continues to play out, it's not yours to worry about. The justice happens, period. Yours, theirs, them, every one of us. We all get sunlight. Nobody gets left out of that. Even if they go, high in the basement, they're still getting the effects of the sun. And so keep your nose out of places where it doesn't belong. And that can be difficult because, I want to be all kinds of up in that tree and going, well, wait about that. What about this? It's not fair. It's not fair. Are we on that one again? Where it's not fair. Yeah. And so that's really the struggle within me of getting okay with knowing that, yes, I've been deeply wounded, deeply hurt. I've been robbed from, I've been thieved, I've been blah, 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 all of it. And what's more important? What's more important to get Mother Earth to a more functional place? Yes. Okay, then gotta let go of that rage. Gotta let go of that anger and butthurt at every level, every time I can, and every time that I do, then I'm actually making myself more available to help Mother Earth survive human beings' assault on her, and get myself more in alignment with what is my assignment on Earth. I didn't come here to just walk around and not do something or nothing at all, anything at all. I came here for something. That's me personally. I don't know about other people. And the closer I get to answering those questions, the less I care about how it is that other people meet their justice, and the more it opens up my ability to say, I can forgive them, Father, for what they did as soon as I can, and not lie about it, however get there, that I can be forgiving. When I'm forgiving, I can be forgiving. And sometimes I slip back into some angry moments and go, during strong energetic pulls and stuff, I can feel that and pick up on that. And I still need to come back to center is be loving and forgiving with yourself, that you're trying to go over there and find some action. Why are you wanting to rotate on that? Is that even your energy? Is that even you having that thought? And when I spend my time munching on those kinds of things, it gets me way out of the department of worrying about what's already happened 3 days ago, much less 3 years ago, or anything else. And whatever I've lost, well, how much more lost is it going to be, or how much more gained is it going to be to continue to sit there and about it? Is it going to help this in some way? And most of the time we don't get out of that loop. We don't even get to the logic of it because we're too busy, caught in a very toxic cycle that's an ego struggle. And, I can't work with an ego struggle on my side of it. If a person's just busy having their own dark night of the soul that's acting out all over the place and not really facing it, there's not much we can do with that. However, when those people finally stop and they realize, whoever they are, me included, when we all stop and finally reach that spot of, and we yield and surrender, those are people that are on the battlefield, need some immediate help. They're not the black tags that are up walking around going, up yours, and you should do this and you should do that, and causing, terrible things to happen. Even if they were that, if they're on the ground, they've yielded and said, I'm so sorry, what can I do? And I don't mean to me, I mean to spirit, however they answer to the higher authority of whatever they answer to, the higher frequency. If they're on their knees and their belly up facing that, not me, then those are the people that get immediate help in this MCI. Otherwise, the ones that are black tagging still, they're black tagging and body bagging. Eventually, whether they're screeching and carrying on, their ego death will happen. It'll happen with their body still attached, or it will have without their body still attached. But the ego death, it happens because it cannot go on. It doesn't go on. And we're being pushed to that direction that if you want to die and never do anything except shove your grandchildren out of the way because you're more interested in the ball game or golf or whatever weirdness, things like that just blow my mind. Like, deathbed, really? Not gonna make any amends? Nothing? Nope, just could you move out of the way? That was kind of harsh, but if we want to keep making those decisions, okay, the kindest thing I could do is to say that I'm gonna love you as unconditionally as possible and not join you in that, in saying that I think that's okay. Do I need to verbalize all of that and say, well, you should? Nope. I need to be quiet most of the time and only verbalize what I'm told to, and keep my mouth shut about most of it. That's not my business. That somebody wants to go to their glory with that kind of attachment to their ego and belief that of themselves being just that, then what is the point? That would be my ego arguing it out with them right on their deathbed, trying to explain them Lucy before they go. And that's just the tragedy of where people are and what they're willing to do. And if they're unwilling to do it, there isn't any way for me to help that. There isn't any way for anybody else to help that. That's how codependency comes into being so toxic, busted, and wrong that people will die before they ever experience the beauty of what it is to really reach emotional healing and understand their own value as human beings. that don't have to be micromanaged by the past or the present or the future out of fear, no matter what's happened to us. So there you have it. There's a lot of stuff there. I don't know if any of it made sense, and I certainly hope that it did. And no matter what, I do hope that you'll be able to find a place in your day, many times in the day, at least in this moment or somewhere soon, where you can identify with there's a kinder, loving, more benevolent presence available to us, even though there's a lot of very malevolent creatures running around on the planet wearing human bodies and a lot of, going on. So people's worst behaviors hanging out. I mean, the worst is hanging out. However, when we go in here, we have the key, the doorway to reaching comfort and healing if we're willing to let go of some attachments and labels and understandings that it has to look this way, it has to look this way. Your spirit's calling you. I promise you it is. Even those black tags running around, causing all kinds of problems. The spirit calls to us and says, hey, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And Mother Nature is very supportive of us. We can find angel numbers, numerology, 1111, 3333, things like that. We can find those things in nature and in our daily lives, and we can hear inspiration, and we can have somebody say something to us that just changes us if we're willing and open to that experience. If we're not, if we're busy, worrying about this over here and, getting all involved in our position on, this is right, this is wrong. Yeah, okay. Just let it all be whatever it is, and maybe go inside for a few minutes. It might be the safest feeling you've ever had. Might also make you cry, might also make you, do a lot of things that feel uncomfortable. Sorry. However, if we're able to hang with it and just get through that few minutes, few days, whatever it is, that dark night of the soul of just fear is fear. If we can have enough courage to face that stuff and know that always, 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 spirit is with us, even when human beings are not. That's why you can't drag other human beings to your come to Jesus meeting, as they used to say in the Baptist church. You can't meet that spiritual awakening with anyone else except those that don't wear bodies, or that energy source that doesn't have a human face, however you identify. So my battery light, that's what I was being alerted of, so I'm going to go away now. Thank you very much for your time. I hope that you're doing well whatever part of the day you're in, and remember, get within your skin, because you're divine. It really is fine. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you again next time. Bye, friends.